afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here online and in person. My name is Dr. Megan Bruning. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the director of the Office of Fellowships. I'm here to tell you today all about the work that I do in our office and how we can help you. So today, I'm gonna, like I said, introduce you to my office and what we do. I'll tell you a little bit about how you can find funding for school online and how you decide what to apply for, or finding your fit, as I call it. We'll talk about how you can be a competitive applicant for these awards. And then before we have questions, I'll tell you how my office can help you. Throughout this presentation, you'll see pictures of students who have received fellowships with our office. This is Bernard. He went to Ghana last academic year on a fellowship to go do research on electoral violence. So the first question that I always get asked is, what is a fellowship? Is it a scholarship? Is it a grant? What is it? It's a good question because everyone defines it differently. A fellowship is an external, nationally competitive award that's given to you, the individual student. That word external just means the money does not come from Mason. It comes from the government, from a nonprofit, anybody but us. And the other key thing to remember is that the money is for you. So it's not for your faculty, it's not for the university. This is money that goes to you for whatever it is you want to do. There are lots of kinds of fellowships. There are fellowships to pay for tuition, for stipend, for. So now that you know what a fellowship is, you can probably guess what my job is. So I'm here to help you find and apply to fellowships. Right, so you don't need to know what you're looking for exactly when you come visit me. We work with currently enrolled students and we work with alumni. So if you're approaching the end of your Mason career, know that you can still come back and work with us. We like to meet with you one-on-one. We help you find the award. We help you develop essays for the applications, get rec letters. We're also here for post-award support. That means if you get an award, we're here to help you figure out the paperwork. So from beginning to end, we are here to support you. We're physically located in Fairfax in Merton Hall. I know for Carter folks, that's not very convenient. We do try to get out here at least once a month in the University Life offices or the plaza. If you're at SciTech, we try to go to the source once a month, but we do a lot of virtual advising. So wherever you are at, we will meet you there, right? Whether that's during the typical 9 to 5 hours, or if you're overseas, or if you're working and you need something different, right? We will meet you there. We are also on Instagram and Twitter at GradFellowsGMU. That is where you can see what fellowships are becoming available and any events that we are doing. Why should you apply? I mentioned that these awards are competitive, right? It's not a guarantee that you'll get a fellowship when you apply. So I think it's reasonable to ask, what's the point of this, right? The first is the most obvious answer. It's a chance to get money, right? There are people that want to give students money. You could be one of them, right? And Mason students do receive these awards every year. So why not put your name right in there and give yourself that chance? We also want to make sure that when we work with you on an application, that you're benefiting from it, right? So that even if you don't get the award, you can walk away saying, I learned something, right? I grew in some kind of way. So when we advise you, we're going to be paying attention to strengthening your communication skills, especially in writing. Learning how to pitch yourself to different audiences is really useful and really important. We're also going to help you create clear goals. Now, this is usually a harder skill for undergrads than for grad students, right? But, you know, a fellowship application can still help you figure out what kind of future you really want for yourself, right? What kind of role you want. And then lastly, fellowship applications are actually a really great chance to develop your network. Whether it's just asking teachers for a rec letter or contacting scholars around the world, sometimes these applications open doors for you that you didn't know existed. So just to give you 2 examples, I had one student who applied to a university overseas, and she was applying to a fellowship. She didn't get the fellowship, but in the process of applying, I told them how to get in touch with the faculty and have good conversations with them. Student didn't get the award, She got into the school and the faculty said it was because of these great conversations you had with us, right? That made us convinced you were a good fit here. I had another student who reached out to people over in New Zealand in their lab. Student did not get the award. The lab said, we would still love you to come work with us, right? That's an opportunity that the student wouldn't have had if not for the fellowship application. So hopefully I've convinced you to at least come email us, right? And talk to us. When should you come talk to the Office of Fellowships? Basically, my simple answer is come visit us as soon as you can. Love the proactive students. Come visit us as soon as you can. And there is a reason for that. And that's because the application cycle for a fellowship is pretty long. It's usually a year. So that means you apply in the fall, right? The slide's incorrect. It should be apply in fall 24, get money for fall in 25, right? There are some fellowships that work a little more quickly, right? Maybe it's a 6-month turnaround, but it's unfortunately not a resource where you apply and then get the money in a week, right? So we want you to come talk to us early, so you've got lots of time to work on opportunities. You're grad students, or you're going to be, you're busy. How much time will this take, right? Some applications are longer than others. Generally, my advisors tell me they spend a couple hours a week on an application, right? When it comes to how many fellowships you apply to, you'll see that I recommend that you apply to a maximum of 3 each year. I have had students try to do more, but they end up burning out. And then they don't finish, and it's a real bummer for everyone involved in the process. So we are happy to help you apply to multiple awards. Just know that we are thinking about your time commitments, right? And we're never going to push you to apply to something if you do not think you don't have the time and energy, right, to do it. So I'm talking about fellowships. Where do you find these things? Well, there are 3 major databases you can use to find fellowships. So when you get the PowerPoint, it'll have live links in here for you to use, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about these 3 tools. All right, first tool, SPIN, S-P-I-N. This is the world's largest database of sponsored funding. This is something you have access to as a Mason student, so make use of it while you are here. SPIN, the benefit of it is that it's really massive, lots of opportunities. The con is that it's really massive and it can be hard to sort through and find what you need. SPIN is really good for finding opportunities from the federal government. So if you want to work for the federal government, SPIN is a great place to look. It's also a really good place to look for research funding. If there's a certain project that you're working on, you can find research funding there. Important thing to know about SPIN, when you are searching through it, you'll have a chance to filter your results. Make sure you always filter to show opportunities that are open to students, not to faculty, and make sure you indicate your citizenship. A lot of fellowships are sponsored by different governments, and they are just for citizens of that country. So make sure you use that filter. The next database on here is UCLA GRAPES database. So UCLA made a database just for grad students of funding opportunities. The nice thing about UCLA's site is that it's already filtered for grad students, right? So you don't need to kind of do that work. It is also user-friendly, more so than SPIN. So if you log into SPIN and are like, no way, this is way too much, try GRAPES, right? It's much more user-friendly. UCLA's site is great for finding dissertation fellowships or fellowships that will just grant you like scholarship money to help pay the bills. Last on here, we've got ProFellow. ProFellow is the most user-friendly out of these 3 sites. It is free. You do have to make an account to use their database. Their database is great for finding summer opportunities and for what they call professional fellowships. If you want to get some work experience before you leave grad school, ProFellow is a great place to look. These are 3 great databases you can use to begin exploring what fellowships are out there for you. Again, the big thing to remember is take your time filtering through your options and save your searches. So for spin, I mentioned that's something you have access to through Mason. You can save searches to an account, right? And ProFellow, same thing. You can save searches to your account. So don't feel like you need to find everything in one session, save it, right? And come back to look at it later. I wanted to take a quick time to make a note for our international students. One question I often get in this session or in general is, are these for international students, right? You mentioned that governments, right, often fund these. So my answer is yes, there are fellowships for international students. There are many that require US citizenship. So it's important to take plenty of time to do that search, right? I also recommend that you talk with faculty. Faculty sometimes know about smaller scholarships or grants that are offered by academic organizations that may not advertise on these bigger databases. So talk to them as well. Be aware of stacking. Stacking means that you get more than one award and you combine that money to cover what you need, right? It's more common for international students to need to do this. So just be aware that you can do that. And then remember that the graduate division here at Mason does have internal funding. So we don't manage that internal funding, but if you need help finding it, we're happy to help navigate you right to that section. Let's say you've gone on one or more of these databases and you've gotten a big list of fellowships. Like I mentioned, we don't recommend that you apply to everything. That's just too much work to do in one semester. So how do you decide what you want to apply for? The key thing is the fit of the award. I mean to say that you should care about if the award aligns with your interests more than how prestigious the award is. So let me give you an example. There is a massive fellowship, there's several massive fellowships sponsored by the National Endowment for the Humanities. These are incredible, these are big, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Very prestigious, also incredibly competitive, right? You can apply for an NEH grant, and maybe it might be smarter for you to apply to a smaller dissertation grant because you're more likely to get it, right? So think about fit more than prestige. So how do you figure out fit? First, and this sounds super obvious, but it's important, make sure you're eligible. It really is like heartbreaking when I have to tell a student they can't submit because they aren't eligible. So double check that. If you're not sure if you're eligible for an award, come talk to us, right? We will help you translate that language. Second, you want to look at selection criteria. So selection criteria means what are the fellowship reviewers looking for, right? And again, we help you translate that, right? We will tell you when they say they want A, what they mean is B, right? So do you fit the selection criteria? Three, you want to think about timing. Does it make sense for me to apply now or to apply later? This is usually more kind of relevant for PhD students, right? Because they decide like, do I need another year of coursework or another year of research, right, to be competitive? But it's good to think about timing, you know, in any case. Second, I mentioned this before, do your goals align with the fellowship? If your goal is to be a foreign service officer, right, after you graduate, and the fellowship says that we are training the next generation of, you know, defense consultants, that's not an alignment of goals, right? So you want to make sure your goals align with that of the fellowship. Thinking about alignment a little differently, do your personal values align with the sponsor? I put this in because it comes up more often in your field than in others, but particularly for any think tank related fellowship, right? If you identify as, you know, with progressive politics, right? The think tank says that we promote conservative thought and values. You know, there's a misalignment there in personal values, right? So it's going to be hard for you to make a good application and not one that they're likely to pick. Next, you want to think about how will this award help me get my degree or my job, right? Is this going to give me skills or knowledge that I'm going to use later? And then last thing is, how much time and effort will this take? I've had grad students, who come to me and they look at, the different options and say, I've got time to do this one. This one is due right around when I'm defending my thesis or when I'm preparing something. I just don't think I'm going to do a good job. Okay, right, we'll focus on the other one that does fit with your time and your energy. So we want you to be honest, right, with yourself about what it's going to take, right, to get a good application out there. Let's say you've worked with us, you found your fit, right, you're beginning to apply. How do you make yourself stand out, right? How do you make yourself that ideal applicant that's gonna get the fellowship? So, said this a couple of different ways. Every award's different, the application's different, but there are some general tips for how you can position yourself to be a strong applicant. First thing is get involved in research. Whether you plan on doing research as a professional or not, showing that you can work well in a group, that you can complete a project, that you know how to communicate with others, those are really great skills, right? So the research can be here at Mason, or it can be somewhere else. Just wanted to put a little plug in, right? We have interdisciplinary labs and a lot of centers in your college, right? And here on the Arlington campus that you can use. Second tip, and this is really important, is get to know your faculty. I know this is easier said than done, but whether your fellowship requires you to have rec letters or not, faculty will give you advice and feedback if they know who you are and what you want to do. Go visit their office hours. Talk to them about your goals. Even if it's your first semester, right? They want you to come in and say, I'm thinking about, the Fulbright in a couple of years. What advice do you have for me? Or I'm trying to decide what kind of job I want in the Department of Energy. What do you think? Right? These general questions can lead to really fruitful conversations. Third tip is about creating specific goals. Again, this is usually more difficult for undergrads than grad students, but just know that fellowships will always ask you very point blank, what are you doing after grad school, right? So the more that you think about that now, the easier that question will be. Fourth, for those interested in government work, our career services folks are amazing when it comes to internships. So if you're looking for that experience, there are fellowships to do that. There are also internships. So there's multiple resources for you to get professional experience before you graduate. And then lastly, my shameless plug, work with us in the Office of Fellowships to become a competitive applicant. So you may be thinking, well, how does working with you make me, a better applicant, or how does it make my application stronger? It's a couple of different reasons. First, we give you individual attention, right? And we help you figure out that fit question, right? What is it that you want to apply to, and how does it align with your goals? Part of our job in the office is also to maintain relationships with fellowship foundations. So just a few weeks ago, we had a couple of speakers come in for these public policy fellowships, and we can ask them and they will tell us, what do you want to see this year in your cycle? What are, the pitfalls that we should avoid, right? So we're happy to give you that kind of insider scoop, right? That expert information. We also help you with the written application pieces. So it's usually essays, right? We've got trained writing specialists who help you brainstorm and revise. You all are in or starting grad school, so you know how valuable it is to have someone else talk about your writing, right? So we have someone who's dedicated to doing that with you. We provide interview coaching. It's not common, but sometimes fellowships will ask for an interview. We do mock interviews. We do interview skill sessions. So we are here to help you develop those skills that you need. Next thing on here is institutional endorsement. Institutional endorsement means that you cannot submit an application unless you have a letter from Mason saying, we endorse this application. This person's awesome, right? Give them money. It's not super common for grad fellowships to need this endorsement, but if you do, we coordinate that. We take care of that entire process for you. We also do workshops and cohort activities throughout the year. As an example, in June, we are doing a virtual boot camp for the Fulbright US Student Program. So the Fulbright US Student Program pays US citizens to go abroad for a year to study, research, or teach English. We're doing a boot camp, series of workshops to help you get started and work on your application. And like I mentioned before, post-award support. So when you've gotten that award in your hands and they've given you paperwork to sign, we will help you interpret it and make sure that everything is good and ready for you to go. All of this is to say, we are here for you, finding the award, applying to it, processing it. We are here to help you throughout the entire process. For most awards for grad students, you're not required to work with our office, like I said, but I can tell you, and this is not me being arrogant or anything, this is just fact, students who work with our office are much more likely to get the award simply because they've had more people supporting them along the way, right? We had, just as we're kind of getting results now, we had 5 students apply to the Boren Awards, which are for learning a foreign language and then working for the government. We had 5 applicants, 4 received the award, and the 5th is an alternate, right? All of these students work with our office, right? So you're much more likely to get that award if you've got support, and we are here to give it to you. All right, I've been talking for almost 25 full minutes, so let me wrap things up. So I've given you a lot of information. You will have the slides, but the 2 big things that I want you to remember are, first, that finding that fellowship, finding that award does take some time, and it does take some reflection about what you're interested in and what your goals are. And second key takeaway is that we are here to help you at each step. It can be really daunting to try and find external funding. You're not alone during that process. So you can email us at pgfs@gmu.edu to set up an appointment. Like I said, we're on social media at Grad Fellows GMU. One last thing that I want to emphasize, when it comes to making an appointment, you do not need to know what exactly you want to apply to, right? I'm not being silly. I'm being very literal when I say people will come to my office and say, I saw you at a session. I don't know where to go from here. Or I would like some money, and that's all I know, right? We are happy to start there and work with you from it. I will also say that, I encourage you to come to our office early. If you do not, need a fellowship experience right now, but you still want to kind of touch base, introduce yourself, we do that too, right? We meet with students early in their careers. We check in every, semester, and then when they're ready, like, we know the student, they have talked to us, we are ready to begin helping them. So don't feel like you have to wait for a certain moment to come see us, or that you have to have everything all figured out. We are here to guide you through that process. Send us an email if you've got questions, and I hope to hear from and see many of you soon. Thanks for joining us today.